Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. It's your final word on sports all across the state. Here's your host, Phil Kornblum.
I know the heartache that they feel right now. We've been on that side of it quite a few times, and you know, you never know how you're going to feel when you get the last out in the College World Series, and I'm still kind of numb, but just overwhelmed with emotions for our players.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, here on this Wednesday night. Beautiful afternoon here in the Columbia area. Phil Kornblut and the Professor Tom Hayes, along with Jared Rogers Martin. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Email talkback at sportstalksc.com and on Twitter at SportsTalkSC. Hope you've had a great day. Boy, that was a great game last night.
Yes.
I mean, the final score does not indicate how close that game was and how pressure-packed that game was. And you could see kind of early on that LSU was playing a little bit tight.
Yes.
They made some mistakes, made some mental errors. Yeah. Physical errors, mental errors. Florida looked very loose. They did not look like the team that was maybe feeling pressure to win. They didn't look like the team that was feeling pressure of facing a great pitcher like Poche. They seemed very loose and went up and took their hacks and had a great approach to him, going back up the middle time and again and getting base hits and running the base paths smartly. And congratulations to the Gators. They win their first national championship. I didn't realize this. With that championship, Florida becomes the first SEC team to win the football, the basketball, and the baseball national championships.
Yeah, I think there's only 4 teams, and I'm almost betting you that the other 3 are from the West Coast. No, but it's interesting. Florida played like the team that had a game in their pocket, and we don't want to play another game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the message to his team. We're not going to let them trot out their ace on us in a third game. We finish this tonight, fellas.
Yeah.
And then we'll celebrate on the plane going back to Gainesville.
Well, they really had to win because they were plumb out of pitching.
Yes.
After last night. They went all in.
What a gamble.
Yeah.
What a gamble. That's the way it started. You said, bases, first and third, 1 out. And they put him in. They got out of it.
Yeah, yeah. And so congratulations to the Gators. And now, of course, the focus around here is on South Carolina and the baseball coaching position. And Ray Tanner now, nothing holding him back. Series is over. College baseball season is over. Nothing is holding him back for moving forward and going after whoever it is he thinks is the best coach to take over the USC baseball program. O'Sullivan, of course, spoke afterwards, not about that, but he did talk about Florida. He talked about having his kids and his family on hand to see him win his first national championship. He talked about what's ahead at Florida, about getting into exit meetings with the players, getting into summer camps, getting into recruiting, et cetera, et cetera. And, of course, nobody brought up the subject of, hey, have you heard the rumor about you in South Carolina? I mean, that would not have been a good time to do that. Yeah. Now, the Gators are arriving back in Gainesville about 6:30 this afternoon. They're going to have a national championship celebration, obviously, at their stadium, at their facilities, maybe at their arena, maybe at their football field. Not sure where they're going to have it. Man, there were a lot of LSU fans there last night.
I told you they're going to take over.
They just came out of everywhere. They did. They took over in a big way. So as far as what we are hearing today on the search for Ray Tanner in South Carolina and the new baseball coach, again, we don't expect anything here to happen with O'Sullivan. Also, do think about this. Not only does he win the national championship, not only does a 10-year contract, not only does he have a $1.25 million annual salary, not only are they promising him a rebuild of the stadium or a new stadium at what, $86 million, I think is the price tag. You see the pitching staff he's got coming back next year?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know about the everyday lineup. I don't claim to know the roster up and down, but I do know they were talking last night about the starting rotation Florida will have next year. Probably will be the best in the country next year. So I just don't see O'Sullivan walking away from any of that to go anywhere, especially after winning the national championship.
Well, that's when I would leave, though. That's when I would leave.
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't win it, I'd stay. If I won it, hey, the people love me. Leave the stage and drop the microphone and leave the stage. Now, the interesting thing about Florida is we both can look at the Florida teams that's been before.
Mm-hmm.
This is not their best team.
No.
Might be their best pitching staff as far as resourcefulness is concerned, because those pitchers look like major leaguers last night. They're almost like they picked their spots, they changed speeds when they needed to, and they made the big pitch when they were threatened. And let's face it, Florida's offense is their pitching brought them home. Their offense just takes advantage when they score in one inning. If they can get you bleeding one inning, tell the pitching staff, there's your 2 runs, bring us home. And most of the time they have, because I don't think they hit with 215, 210 this year as a team in the postseason.
Yeah. So where is it heading now with South Carolina? And our information today from several different sources indicate Mark Kingston at Tampa, down in Tampa at South Florida, as the front runner for the job. He is the one of 2 people that Tanner, that we know of, has interviewed, has met with for the job, Jim Toman being the other. I think Jim Toman would be a wonderful hire. I think maybe the fact that he currently doesn't have a job and was fired from Liberty, whatever stigma that is attached to that, would not play well in front of the USC board, as I guess they have to approve the hire. Those they should really, the board of trustees should let Tanner hire his guy and just rubber stamp it and send it on through. We've seen USC board of trustees over the decades mess up many a hire at South Carolina by interfering. You give athletic director the power to do the search. You give him the power to make the hire, and you trust your athletic director to do a good job at doing that. If not, then you get another athletic director if you don't think the guy you have can do the job. Certainly Tanner can do the job, and he should be free to hire the best baseball man that fits their budget that he can find. So we know that Kingston interviewed, and we know that Toman met with Tanner as well for 2 hours on Sunday at Founders Park. Today, the coach at Wake Forest, I guess it was announced by Wake Forest, that he had signed a multi-year contract extension with the Demon Deacon, so he's not going anywhere. Monty Lee, of course, still seems fully tied in with Clemson, and don't foresee him going anywhere. Don't see anything happening with Chris Lemonis up at Indiana at this point. Holiday out at Oklahoma State would be an intriguing possibility, if indeed that is somebody that Ray Tanner is looking at. I've seen that name floated out there. And that's sort of where we are as far as we know it at this moment, unless you know something otherwise.
No, I don't, but I can. A couple of things, if I can just play Ray Tanner for a minute, and I'm thinking, the people I know that I trust, that I've asked for advice in this hiring, okay, I've gotten that input. Now, do I want to hire somebody outside of my tree? I think I want to this time. Who do I hire? When I look at a Kingston, solid coach, he's turned around South Florida. He's got his tentacles in recruiting in Florida, great baseball in South Carolina. Augment that with any recruiting to fill in Florida. Just thinking.
And we'll talk more about that in a moment. Some of you people on Twitter, seriously, you need to get a grip. You need to look in the mirror and just see really what kind of vermin you are.
Come on now.
I am absolutely dead serious. Okay. So we put out our information today about Kingston being the front runner.
Mm-hmm.
Not that he's been hired. I mean, things can still happen, but that's how we see it today. And the reaction by some people on Twitter is just stupid. You know, here's the problem with baseball, with college baseball. There's only a handful of popular names out there that people would know. The guys who are making the big bucks at the prime time programs. You know, Tanner was one of those. Today you've got O'Sullivan, and you've got Corbin, and you've got the guy at Louisville, and you've got the guy at LSU. You got the guy at Miami. He's been around forever. You've got, and I'm probably going to miss somebody here or there, the guy, Florida State, Mike Martin. I wouldn't put Monty Lee in that category yet because he's so new still at Clemson. I'm talking about the guys who are making $1 million plus. You can name those guys. Maybe I don't think Holiday's making $1 million plus, but he's got a popular name. There's a few, big names. And these people think if South Carolina does not get one of those, it's a failure. And there's nobody else who can coach college baseball but these 6 or 7 guys. Look, Mark Kingston, you people who are questioning or ripping the decision, you don't know a damn thing about him. You don't know anything about him. I hardly know much about him. I don't sit here and claim to know college baseball inside and out. Okay, it's part of what we cover. And send me that, will you? Or start reading it. Pro just found a story in what is that in the Tampa Bay? What time was that written? In the Tampa Bay Times.
Let's see.
Speaking 28th. To the mic. Speaking to the mic.
28th.
The 28th.
Yeah, today.
No, today is what is today?
The 28th. The day is the 28th.
Okay, I mean, what time was that posted?
6. Looks like 6. It couldn't have been. What is it? I can't see.
Well, read the story.
I can't because it's
well, give it to me and I'll read it.
No, it's stuck.
What do you mean it's stuck?
It's frozen. My computer is frozen. No, but it just simply says, you can read the title and it says Kingston expect to stay, get raised.
At South Florida.
At South Florida.
Okay. I'm going to pull that up and see if I can find. That's in the Tampa Bay Times?
That is correct.
That's in the Tampa Bay Times. My computer's working. It's
now,
been
while your computer's working, I want to ask some people out there that here's a name they never heard. How many championships did Ray Tanner win at NC State before he was hired here?
Yeah.
Answer is 0.
Here we go, U.S.
Kevin O'Sullivan was an assistant at Clemson when he was hired at Florida, was he not?
Correct.
Okay. The 2 teams that had tremendous turnaround seasons with first-year coaches in the SEC last year were Kentucky with their dynamic offense and Mississippi State. Both of those guys were assistants somewhere last year. So you never know where the magic is coming from. You just need to make the hire that fits South Carolina. You don't grab a championship coach and say, here, let's shove him, make him fit, because he may not be coming here for the right reason.
Right.
So
right. I'm looking on the Tampa Bay Times sports website, and well, maybe it's still loading. It is not. I'm not getting it. I saw it on your page there. I'd like to get this daggone story in front of me. It's I'm not doubting the writer of the story. I mean, if that's the case, then you scratch your head and you say, why would a guy at South Florida not take the job at South Carolina?
Well, remember now, the title says expected to stay. That doesn't mean that word expected.
Yeah, but if it's coming from the beat writer down there, that's pretty strong, and it's in the Tampa newspaper. I mean, they're the ones closest to the program. I I'd like to put my eyes on it here. It's not coming up yet, but I'll keep trying to pull it up here. When your machine gets to working, let me read it because I want to see it. So anyway, just getting back though to the Twitter reaction, it's comical how people react to things on Twitter. And it's because, man, I wish if you had to put your name and your face to your comments on Twitter, do you think people would comment in the same way?
No.
With the same ferociousness and nastiness about things they don't even know anything about. Look, whether it's Kingston or whether it's Toman or somebody else, he's going to be a good baseball coach. And he might not come in with the $1 million smile and all of that, but he'll be a good baseball coach. So for people just to jump on a name and say, never heard of this guy, well, of course you've never heard of him, because unless you follow college baseball deeply, you're not going to hear of a Mark Kingston. I'd never heard of Mark Kingston until we learned last week he was in for a visit. I couldn't have told you who South Florida's baseball coach was. I can tell you who their football coach is. I can't tell you who their basketball coach is off the top of my head. Wait a minute. Is it Mike Davis? No.
Third-year USF baseball coach Mark Kingston, whose name recently has been attached to at least 2 Power 5 vacancies, is expected to remain with the Bulls. At least 2 sources close to Kingston have indicated he has decided to stay put. It's almost certain Kingston, who has led USF to the NCAA tournament twice in 3 seasons, will get a significant bump from his current $140,000 a year salary.
How much?
$140,000.
They're paying him $140.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. And so
Baseball America Mike Lanana reported via Twitter today that Kingston was on Virginia Tech's campus, presumably to discuss the Hokies coaching vacancy. He also had been listed as a candidate earlier in the year at Alabama. So that's what I have right here.
Yeah. Let's and that was posted after 6 o'clock. So obviously from earlier today when we first got hands on our information and what we were told, and others have been told too, now until later in the afternoon and early evening, things may have shifted there. I wonder how much money they plan on paying him. I wonder what he talked about with Tanner. And I mean, look, if you rate Tanner, you don't bring in a guy like Mark Kingston for an on-campus visit and all that, unless you like him enough and you're in a position to want to hire him, and especially since you haven't brought in anybody else except Jim Toman. Very strange. Very strange. What's even stranger is I still can't get the story to come up on my Tampa Bay Times, right?
Tampa Bay Times.
Winner of 12 Pulitzer Prizes.
Mm-hmm. Keep going down.
6:27 p.m. Wednesday, June 28th, 2017. I see a picture of Quentin Flowers on the page. I'm looking at the USF, and maybe I should go to the sports front page. I'm looking at the USF page, thinking it's there, but
no. What I did was I put his name in the search engine on the front page of the website, and it popped up. It was one of the articles that popped up.
I think we're talking to what's the author's name?
Let me check that for you. By the way, his record this year was 42
and 19. Who wrote the story?
Joey Knight.
Joey Knight. Is that who we're talking to tonight, Jarmart? Joey Knight? All right, we've got the author of that story coming on the show. What time's he coming on? At 7:20. Okay, so we'll find out more from him about that. How about that? Interesting turn of events. All right, we'll hit a break here. Also coming up tonight, we got a little bit more from Kevin O'Sullivan, post-game comments after winning the championship. Our buddy Bill Pollock from Missouri Net's going to join us at 7:05 to talk about some clown who drove his car into the basketball arena at Mizzou. Back in a moment. Welcome back, everybody. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. From downtown Columbia on a very busy Wednesday night. I got to get a lot done tonight because I'm gone Thursday and Friday. And I'll be back Monday, which is July 3rd. We'll celebrate July 3rd. And then July 4th, another special edition taped program of Sports Talk as we all take a little bit of a holiday break on July 4th, and back at it on the 5th. And we'll be cruising through the month of July, just trying to hang on till we get first to July 27th when USC opens practice, then to August 4th when Clemson opens practice, and the other schools around the state. Special guest in our studio right now. We welcome in an old friend in Ron Morris, former sports columnist, sports editor, the state newspaper. Also spent a lot of years working in Durham, North Carolina, where he covered very closely the very famous Durham Bulls. And he has written a book about the Durham Bulls, No Bull, the real story of the rebirth of a team and a city. Great to see you.
Well, thanks, Phil.
And this is right in your
Wheelhouse.
yes.
There you go.
I was trying to think of something else,
Bailiwick,
but that's
wheelhouse.
bailiwick, but I didn't want to try to sound too smart. But I mean, you always had an affection for minor league baseball and has always believed in the positive impact of minor league baseball on cities.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think the real connection to the Columbia audience is that I firmly believe, having experienced what happened in Durham through the 80s and into the 90s and now into the 2000s, what happened in Durham is going to happen in Columbia as well on the Bull Street property. The parallels are uncanny.
Even if Tim Tebow never comes back.
Even if Tim Tebow never sets his foot in this city again. It goes beyond the baseball.
Yeah.
It goes to creating a social gathering place like had never been created in Durham before the Durham Bulls.
Mhm.
And really has never been created in Columbia until now.
Well, could you not say, just to play devil's advocate, could you not say USC baseball did not create the same kind of social atmosphere? Doesn't?
It doesn't, and it's not a knock at USC.
Yeah.
It's just a different audience. The USC baseball program appeals to the 7,000 season ticket holders who are Gamecock Club members. They're the same 7,000 fans that come to every game.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's, in the Midlands area, there are another 593,000 people, of which many hundreds of thousands of those could be baseball fans.
Sure.
And this is what the Columbia Fireflies appeal to.
Do they get you think they get a different audience every night? Pretty much a different audience every night?
It's not totally different every night, but it's certainly a high percentage of a different audience, especially when somebody like Tim Tebow is playing here.
Yeah.
There are many people who went to the ballpark for the first time in their lives just to see Tim Tebow.
Yeah.
And people will say, well, now their attendance will fall off the cliff and nobody will ever go to the stadium again. My guess is that those people who came for the first time, just like happened in Durham in the early 80s, came to a ball game for the first time and said, this is not only family affordable, but it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back.
Same thing in Greenville.
Same thing in Greenville.
Mm-hmm.
It's the appeal of minor league baseball versus college baseball. And that's no knock on college baseball. It's a very good product that appeals to a totally different audience.
Well, Ron, tell me this about the behavior of fans, because most fans, when they go to a sporting event, their fervor is so into looking at everything that happens to that team, good or bad. It seems that people who go to minor league baseball, they want that team to win, but they know this is a developmental process. And it's almost like, can I use the term that the fan seems to be more loose at a minor league game
and
than another game.
To me, that's the social melting pot for all of Columbia and the Midlands. Every walk of life, every race, every gender, they're all attending these games. And I've never seen anyone in all of my years of covering minor league baseball, rarely have I ever seen anyone be truly upset when they left the ballpark because their team lost.
Right. Yeah.
It just doesn't matter.
Mhm.
You're out there for the atmosphere, for the fun, for the between innings entertainment, for whatever else goes with it.
Mhm.
And the game is kind of the backdrop to it
Right.
all. And
The Durham story. I mean, you lived there, and I actually have family in Durham, so I can remember going to Durham as a child, and it was a very vibrant city. It smelled like a cigarette, of course. Then when the tobacco industry dried up, so did much of the city, right?
Durham in the early 80s was considered the armpit of the Research Triangle. I mean, that's being kind. Chapel Hill,
Even with Duke being right there?
well, Duke at that time was might as well have been on an island in the Pacific, because Duke was not part of the Durham community.
Mm-hmm.
Duke students did not participate in Durham activities. Durham residents, unless they had a lot of money and were members of the Duke booster clubs, did not participate in Duke University activities. And then in 1980, professional baseball came back to Durham after a 9-year absence. And all of a sudden, it became kind of this cool place for Duke students to go to a minor league baseball game where they had 12-ounce beers for $1 and the drinking age was 18.
Mm-hmm.
And it just picked up. And pretty soon, Durham and Duke became one. They kind of melded. And if you go to Durham today, I don't know when the last time either of you have been back to Durham. Durham is now the cool place in the Research Triangle to not only visit, but to live.
Mm-hmm. Cooler than Raleigh?
Oh, yeah, much more so.
Hipper than Chapel Hill?
Absolutely. In fact, they used to go to Franklin Street. The students used to go to Franklin Street in Chapel Hill for entertainment and to go to the bars. Now they go to Durham.
Okay.
Well, I have been to Durham in the last couple of years, and I've been downtown, and I've seen the establishments, the restaurants, the bars, and everything that has spun off of the stadium, which is right off of what, Jackie Robinson Drive? Is that what they call it?
I think they do.
Yeah. Got a really cool address for it. The highway runs right by the outfield wall, I believe. If my memory serves me right.
First baseline.
First baseline. Beautiful, beautiful stadium. So, yeah, you can see how that town has rebounded in a big, big way. And you feel like the Bulls had a lot to do with it. How much did the movie have to do with all of that?
Sure. 1980 was when the minor league baseball came back to Durham.
Mm-hmm.
The Durham Bulls were kind of reestablished. And by 1988, when the movie came out, the Bulls were one of, if not the most successful minor league franchise in the country. So contrary to popular belief, the movie did not make the Durham Bulls. Now, did it enhance their image and their reputation? And did the movie make it one of the most iconic franchises in all of sports? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was in 1988, the movie came out. And then around 1992, the city council decided that the old ballpark, the Durham Athletic Park, where the movie was filmed, was antiquated. It was overcrowded. It had basically worn out its welcome.
Mm-hmm.
They needed a new stadium. And so they put a bond referendum before the public, and it was voted down by considerable margin. So the city council then took the step of coming up with a different way of bonds to pay for the stadium without a bond vote.
Hmm.
And they voted in favor of doing this, and almost every person who voted in favor of building a new stadium was voted out of office in the next election.
Really?
That's how much dissent there was against a new stadium. Now, if that sounds familiar to you,
Yes,
it should.
It happens in a lot of cities.
It does.
Now, yes.
It does. And the same thing.
But the same people who are on the dissenting side now, they're happy with what the Bulls are doing?
You won't find anybody in Durham who would say, I was really against that stadium.
Because it's meant jobs.
Because it's meant jobs. When that stadium was built, it was the only thing in that area. There were old abandoned warehouses. There was a prison in center field. And now you go to that area, there are shopping centers, there are living areas, there are restaurants, there's a performing arts center.
All right, hold that thought. We'll come back and talk more about the Durham Bulls and the resurrection of Durham and other things in a moment. Okay, we're back. It is Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Timeout. I have to call a timeout here and a penalty on the pro. This story you're talking about with Kingston, it was written June 8th.
June 8th?
June 8th.
Okay.
So, scratch that.
Well, when did he
go back to
hold it, but when did he talk to Virginia Tech, though?
This all goes back. This thing was written on June 8th. Right up here. Here's the timeline. It says June 8th. Joey Knight, Thursday, June 8th, 10:07 a.m. Now, somebody might have retweeted it today, but it was written on June 8th.
June 8th, and think about it. He says that he's talked to two
sources.
No.
But this was before he interviewed at South Carolina.
So that means he's talked to three now.
And actually, this was the day after. Wasn't Holbrook fired on the 7th?
I think so.
Yeah. We'll get back to this. I don't want to take up Ron's time. But were you shocked by what happened with Holbrook?
No. I think I go back to what Eric Hyman used to say about the dismissal of coaches or reaching the point where they either had to resign or you had to fire them. And it came down to, in every case, it comes down to if there is no remaining hope for the program among the fan base, then it's
even if they're wrong, even if the fan base is wrong.
But even if they're wrong, if they don't believe anymore, it's going to be really difficult to overcome that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what got Chad in the end. And
yeah.
I hated it for Chad. I liked Chad, got along with him, thought he was a heck of a coach. My take on it was that he was more a victim of, in addition to being the successor to someone who had won 2 national championships, he was a victim of what's happening in college baseball, in that it used to be 5 teams could win the national championship every year at the most. It's kind of like women's basketball is now.
But
now it's 55 can probably win it. And Coastal Carolina proved that last year.
And part of the problem too now is you replace a guy is, unless you're really into college baseball and know names, there's like 6 or 7, 8 golden names out there. And if you're like in South Carolina's case, when we reported earlier today that Kingston was the top guy, people are like, who's this guy? Never heard of him. Don't want him. Bad decision. This guy is probably a great baseball coach, probably a very good baseball coach. He's just not one of those top 8 or 9 guys.
My guess is when Kevin O'Sullivan was hired at Florida, that I'm just guessing that he probably was an unknown. Most people didn't believe Kevin O'Sullivan was going to be a great coach.
Exactly. And that was his first job as a head coach.
It was.
Because he had been at Clemson. How about Jack Leggett's coaching tree now with 2 guys with national championships, Corbin and O'Sullivan now. And Jack never got one, unfortunately for him. Anyway, back to No Bull, the real story of the rebirth of a team and a city by Ron Marsh. Where is this available? This would be a great read if you're a baseball fan. As the growing number of minor league baseball fans in the state. I mean, look, we have now in our state 3 flourishing minor league situations, don't we?
We have 4.
Who am I forgetting?
Myrtle Beach.
Oh, forgot about Myrtle Beach.
And North Augusta. Are they back on the North Augusta side, or are they still on the Augusta side?
The Green Jackets?
All right.
That's a good question. I don't think they're in. I don't know.
They used to be on the Augusta side, but I know they were building a new stadium, and I'm not sure where they are now.
Well, let's talk about the ones we know,
right,
or generalized. We've got 4 healthy minor league situations. In each case, a beautiful park. And, of course, the Myrtle Beach, the Pelicans Park is outstanding. And you got the draw of the beach, and you're a mile from the ocean and all that. And there's not a whole lot of restoration going around that area of Myrtle Beach. You got the big mall across the street. But in the other cities, you see the impact in terms of the building and the development around the stadiums.
You've seen it in Greenville more than the others. Greenville, I think it's called the West End, was pretty much deserted on that side of town, side of downtown, and now it's kind of grown. The stadium has kind of grown into the city downtown area, and it's flourishing, much like what happened in Durham. One point I wanted to make about in the comparison of Durham and Columbia, when they built that new ballpark in 1995, they opened it in 1995. It was another 20 years before all of the development came about around it to be what it is now, a thriving little downtown area. It was 20 years. And I think people in Columbia are understandably a little impatient. They don't see a whole lot of development right away on the Bull Street property, but you have to give it time. And I think in 20 years, I won't be around, but
where are you going?
Those people.
You moving?
Yeah.
Ron Morris is moving in 20 years, everybody.
That's right. But in 20 years, I think you'll come back and see that it developed. Bull Street property developed, and downtown Columbia kind of moved toward that, in that direction.
Yeah. Do they still, and you're over there a lot, I'm sure, at the Fireflies Park. They've got to still improve the parking situation. And do you see development coming out towards the Bull Street side of the property, or is it going to go on the other side?
I have no idea what the plans are.
Yeah.
Other than eventually they'll have residential, shopping, restaurants.
Are they going to improve the parking situation as far as blacktop and all that?
Well, my guess is that when it all develops around it, that'll come with it. They'll probably end up having parking decks.
Well, Ron, you see it. It's almost like the growth of Bull Street, and whoever puts their foot to the accelerator first, because let's face it, once you get to Elmwood Avenue to Main Street, all that undeveloped property, which is very inexpensive compared to just going a few blocks down. So you see Bull Street and Main Street, that whole section right here of the city, we could see some booming going on.
I believe that. I really do. I really believe Columbia's in for a real treat in the next 20 years on the Bull Street property. And in fact, if I was to move to Columbia and they built condos on that site, that'd be a place that I'd be interested in living.
Oh, I bet you would. You'd want your living room facing right down on the field.
Well, I don't know if it's that so much as it would be having the ballpark access, but also having access to everything else you need without having to get in your car. If you had grocery store and shopping area and entertainment.
Two things real quick. Where can you get the book?
The best place to order it is through baseballamerica.com.
Really?
And that's the preferred way for the author. For obvious reasons.
Let's get a bigger cut.
That's
Hey,
right.
let me ask you this. I got to ask you two quick things. Answer this quickly. Old friend of mine, Gary Cohen, was once the voice of the Bulls. He's now the voice of the Mets. Did you get a chance to talk with him about his time in Durham?
I have not. I did send him a book. I heard him mention the Durham Bulls one night on a Mets game.
Yeah.
And I sent him a book, and I remember
That's
when he was
where
there.
he kickstarted his career.
He did.
After he left Spartanburg. We were all together in Spartanburg, and he went for a brief time and did the Norfolk Tides, a Mets team, and then got the Bulls job, and from there right up to the Big Apple. The basketball tournament, you were involved with the city of Columbia in getting that regional. We got about a minute, and so you got to feel very satisfied and gratified about what you and the others were able to do.
It's not so much satisfaction and gratification for me as it is for the city of Columbia and the Midlands area. This area will be able to host in March of 2019 the NCAA men's basketball tournament first and second round.
Yeah, that's huge.
Just soak that in.
Yeah,
that's just incredible for this area, and I'm so happy for Mayor Benjamin, for Athletic Director Ray Tanner, for everyone who got behind the project and really wanted it and sold it to the NCAA, and we have it.
Yeah.
And I was just saying, Ron, when you were working on it, you never know when a fan of a team from anywhere in the country comes down here and he looks at that Bull Street property. I'm going to put something in this town. You never know who you draw when you have events like this in your city.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
One last thing.
Yes.
I'll be signing books tomorrow night at the Lexington County Blowfish game.
Cheap plug there. Lexington County Blowfish.
That's the Collegiate Summer League team.
Yes.
Out in Lexington. Beautiful ballpark, and I'll be out there signing books tomorrow night.
Well, thank you. It's a good-looking book.
Thanks.
And it looks like a nice read. Recommend it to anybody who's a baseball fan out there. Thank you for coming by.
Thank you very much, Phil and Tom, for having me on here.
Our pleasure. Ron Morris, top of the hour. Much to come.
stop now. More sports talk is on its way. Listen to the final word in sports all across the state with your host, Phil Kornblut.
So what do you think of that Chris Paul trade, Pro?
I don't.
You don't think about it?
No,
or?
well, the one thing I would say that Houston last year became a threat in the Western Conference. They really did. They played very well. Harden had a chance to win MVP. But here's the key. A Mark D'Antoni team finally learned how to play defense. One of the reasons why is you had Randy Beverly on that team. I don't think his first name is Randy, but Beverly, the guy that played at Arkansas years
Not
ago.
Randy, not Randy. It's
No.
Pat Beverly?
Patrick Beverly.
Yeah.
Patrick Beverly.
Yeah.
Your best defensive player who could guard both backcourt positions. That's gone now.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, you give away Lou Williams, who I think has modeled every uniform in the NBA
Mm-hmm.
by the time he retires. Went straight out of high school from the state of Georgia. Lou Williams was their igniter scorer off the bench. So you've traded your best scorer off the bench and your best backcourt defensive player for Chris Paul, who, while dynamic, has never won anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you got two dynamic scorers in the backcourt. Are they compatible with Harden? I'm not sure. This will be very interesting.
And somewhere the former commissioner is saying, let me take a look at that before you guys complete that trade.
No, he won't do that for this trade.
Let's welcome in to Sports Talk, our good buddy from Missouri Nets. You know, we had one of our good buddies on last night, Will Pelagic, who I took barbecue from. There's another guy I've taken some good Missouri barbecue from in the past, Bill Pollock from Missouri Net. Well, you know that you have paid up.
Let me correct you. I don't believe I was a part of that deal. That might have been our newsroom. I never bet
Oh, Missouri.
I cover them for a living. I don't bet with them. If anything, I should have gotten in on that deal with you guys.
Yeah. Well,
you know.
I thought it'd be neat to have Bill on. You may have seen this story. Maybe you didn't. I mean, it's not a funny story, but it is kind of a funny story. And that is a guy drove his car into the Mizzou Arena. And not only did he burst through the doors, he drove onto the basketball court and then somehow managed to drive his car off the court. And, well, you tell us what happened. To give us the background on this thing and the damage done, and where's this guy now?
Yeah, 23-year-old Nathan Conant decided to take his Volkswagen Passat, which the first question when I heard this story is, what dude drives a Passat? I mean, I have never seen, I'm telling you, I'm on it. I have never seen a dude driving a Passat. That's a car that a girl like in her late 20s, early 30s, I see her doing outside sales, kind of professional,
excuse me. Jared drives a Passat.
Get out of here.
And it's on top of that, it's
it's
teal in color. It's teal in color.
Just clear the record
teal
on this.
Passat.
I have
Now,
no
wait a minute.
Passat. I have no Passat. I've got a slick Mazda 3 hatchback. But there would be no problem with a man driving a Passat.
I happen to like a Passat. I think a Passat's a good-looking car.
Phil once drove a Jetta.
I did. A step down from a Passat.
I was thinking Jetta.
Yeah.
You're right, Bill. You're right.
All right, go ahead, sir.
Yeah. Well, that's all right. So so this 23-year-old, it's early Sunday morning, about 4 a.m, gets this harebrained idea that he's going to drive into Mizzou Arena. So he plows through this gate, this fence, and then after he gets through the fence, which protects the outside barrier, he goes through the dock door and gets into the shipment area. He blows through some golf carts, makes his way onto Norm Stewart Court. I don't know why they named the court after him. He had all these wins, never took the team to the Final Four, but he got his own court and he's going to get his own statue. So they consider him a hero. But anyway, that's besides the point.
Yeah.
So he gets on the court, drives around a little bit, and then decides, well, I got to get out of here. Doesn't go out where he busted the fence, and he takes down another fence.
Oh my
So
goodness.
the police, they piece this all together. They start coming up with an idea of who this is. He turns himself in Sunday afternoon, says it was me. We don't know. The other question I had outside of, what dude drives a Passat was, what was he on or what was he drinking? Because how in your right mind do you think that that's a good idea? And then after you pull off this stunt, which is somewhat impressive that you broke through a fence and a door and got onto the court, that you decide and find a way to get out of this. So we'll find out in 30 days when the prosecutors come up with their charges, if he was on anything or drinking. And
Wow.
somewhere I saw that he was a former university employee. I haven't been able to confirm that, but the damage, $100,000.
Have they determined how fast he was driving to have the speed to bust through a gate and then through a door? And then how do you get a car? And a Passat is not a small car. It's a standard size vehicle. How do you get from there to the court through the tunnel, the corridor, whatever you had to drive through to get to the floor?
Well, it's pretty open where the dock door is. Once you bust through that dock door, you've got a straight shot to come out of the tunnel. In fact, I think it's the same tunnel like the visiting team will come out of. So I think that's where he got in. But yeah, you have to be traveling at a pretty decent rate of speed to bust through that. I'm sure the German engineers they're probably baffled by it. They're probably Farfanugan. How did this happen?
What kind of shape is the car in?
Well, because he drove home. I'm assuming he drove home.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
This guy, hang on. He drove his car through an outside fence, through cargo doors, through the court, back out through another door, gate, fence, whatever, and the car's still running?
Apparently so.
I haven't seen something like this since Herbie the Love Bug. It's a Volkswagen miracle.
Do you think VW, considering all the trouble that they've had in this country and the billions of dollars that they've lost as a result, you think maybe they put him up to this as part of a commercial they were doing to prove how tough their cars are?
Man, I don't know, but I mean, this is instant. I mean, they don't even have to say anything. This is great publicity for them, because if I'm looking for a car for my 24-year-old daughter that I want to buy her for graduation, if I have disposable income like that, I'm looking at a graduation gift next year and thinking, I'm getting this girl a Passat because this thing can handle anything.
No doubt. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. How much damage? What are they calling the amount?
Yeah, at least $100,000. That's what the University of Missouri Police Department is estimating. Haven't heard anything yet from the athletic department.
Wow.
They have to order a new floor.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, they're not?
Well, in fact, I know it's not, because they tweeted a picture. When I say they,